Game of Thrones is based entirely on Martin's history book, Fire and Blood, whereas House of the Dragon is based entirely on Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series. The book is thought to be from a Westeros Archmeister, but somehow it includes numerous accounts of what happened during the Targaryen reign. You can sometimes recall Daenerys Targaryen, the mother of dragons, and her quest to reclaim the Iron Throne from Game of Thrones. House of the Dragon could delve deeper into Targaryen lore. It may be too soon to speculate on what HBO's House of the Dragon might accomplish beyond the current plot and event it's setting up, but the illustrious past of House Targaryen only tempts the countless devoted George R.R. Martin fans to speculate even harder. So either it may not be around forever. Ryan Condal, the creator of House of the Dragon, suggested as much in a recent interview with Westeros.org. Condal was speaking with the website about his Game of Thrones spin-off, which is already approaching the end of Season 1, and her deteriorating connection with the Hightower children. Some of that assumption is reinforced by co-runner Miguel Sapochnik's recommendation in a July interview with Comedy Central that House of the Dragon would segment the Targaryens' lore's canonical timeline. The Dance of the Dragons is the name of the War of Succession that the show is now building up to, but the name of the series is flexible enough to move further forward or back while remaining under the same canopy. There's also no shortage of source material to make House of the Dragon a distinctive long-running anthology series, including the Targaryen histories recorded and mentioned in Martin's Fire and Blood. First things first, revealing some surprises and secrets of the House of Dragons. This legacy family's dynasty was made possible by Aegon I Targaryen's conquest of Westeros, which has been mentioned in both House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones. The fabled godlike personality Aegon I, often known as the Conqueror, serves as an indirect setting for many of the events in the world of A Song of Ice and Fire, whether or not Targaryens are involved. In a shocking turn of events, House of the Dragon added a new level of mystery that, at least up to this point, wasn't made plain in the source material. In the first episode, King Viserys explains to his daughter Rhaenyra that Aegon's conquest was inspired by a dragon dream, a type of vision that some Targaryens can see, which was a foreshadowing of the long night that would ultimately endanger the entire world in Game of Thrones. Only monarchs would be permitted to share this knowledge, which is referred to as Aegon's Song of Ice and Fire. Next, should it have ended up turning into a crime drama? It would be difficult not to be delighted at the thought of seeing House of the Dragon take this route. Given that Aegon was such a storied and significant figure in Martin's source material when it came to world building, his story should be modified to turn into an anthology series. It could be argued that the show would have been better if Aegon I had been the main focus of the first season and the anthology format had been planned from the beginning. Coming back to Aegon, he reveals a big secret to his daughter. Also, who could be another interesting villain? A brilliant Season 2 revelation would have been to keep Aegon's dragon dream a secret until Viserys tells his daughter. The most fanciful aspects of Targaryen lore are mostly in the past, but it would still likely make for excellent television in a later season. The lives of Aegon, Visenya, and Rhaenys I's offspring had even more potential for change beyond Aegon's own. Maegor the Cruel, who makes an appearance in House of the Dragon, is another intriguing villain. On the fantasy side, this would be an amazing way to present glimpses of old Valyria's majesty, as well as provide justifications for seeing more of the dragons that originally differentiate the Targaryens. It would be a sight to see a CG animated Balerion the Black Dread on mainstream TV, particularly since both seasons of Game of Thrones hinted at the magical beast's intimidating skull in the Red Keep. The one main downside would be saying too much of Aegon, which would ruin a portion of the magic that surrounds him. Nonetheless, as with other things, an exquisite adaptation of the source material and competent artistic fingertips could just have properly informed this story. Here comes where it all began, the rise and fall of Old Valyria. Another choice would be to go even deeper into the past, to the time of Aegon the Conqueror. The era of royal extravagance in Old Valyria has also been intimated, but never shown on screen, as well as numerous other fascinating things of Game of Thrones legend. Moreover, the glory days of Valyria, when it was at its greatest, will never be repeated, as King Viserys himself proclaimed in House of the Dragon. A fascinating approach to adding as much fantasy to this fantasy series as possible would be to return to it for at least one generation of House Targaryen ancestry. Similar to the current build-up to the dance, this moment in Targaryen's history could potentially boost more than one season, although in this case it would conclude in the fated doom of Valyria and how Daenerys Targaryen herself envisioned it. Dany's vision prevented House of Targaryen from going extinct along with the other Dragonlord houses of their country as a result of the doom, which allowed Valyria to be devoured in flames that even dragons couldn't endure. The Targaryens were one of many such houses, and weren't always the strongest before Aegon identified a vast empire when he conquered Westeros, so then it'd be even more of an origin storyline than the plot currently being portrayed in House of the Dragon. Moving forward, Ruin Condal took a big decision that might make things interesting. The consequences of the dance also offer an abundance of material to draw from and perhaps alter, such as the impending conflict with Dorne, Aegon IV's corrupted rule, and more. Even more romantically, Robert's Rebellion might mark the end of the House of the Dragon, which takes place only 17 years before Game of Thrones. Changing the show into an anthology series offers the enticing possibility of being even more ambitious and imaginative than it already is, regardless of the direction showrunner Ryan Condal decides to lead the series. Let's look at what Sapochnik and the company have in the showroom for Season 2. Although HBO has not formally renewed the show, Season 2 of House of the Dragon is quite likely. It's unknown what Sapochnik and the company have planned for a sophomore campaign. The series might pick up where the first season left off, moving forward in time, or do both, according to his Star Wars analogies. House of the Dragon Season 1 will act as a litmus test for the franchise's future, following Game of Thrones' controversial final season and some canceled rejected spin-offs. Other related news: the subtle difference between House of the Dragon and Incinerate as well as Blood. What has been lost, added, or switched from the pages of Fire and Blood? After Alicent Hightower, Olivia Cook drew a dagger on Rhaenyra Targaryen, Emma Darcy, and her sons in the latest episode of House of the Dragon, there must have been some master furiously scribbling it down. It was tense and exciting, and it had nothing to do with Fire and Blood or the world of Ice and Fire. A growing number of events in the series are made up, and even more spin George R.R. Martin's words in aspects that the first season of Game of Thrones did not. Those who haven't read the books on which House of the Dragon is based may be curious about the adjustments. Let your curiosity be quenched right now. HBO had already unveiled a teaser for the upcoming episode of the Game of Thrones spin-off show. The trailer for House of the Dragon Episode 8 has now become available. Following Lord Corlys Valerian's unspecified injury, it foreshadows the struggle for the Driftmark throne. House of the Dragon Episode 8 is labeled The Lord of the Tides, and it picks it up a little after the scuffle at the Mariners' Empire, which delivered fake deaths and the beginning of dispute. The House of the Dragon Episode 8 scene starts with what initially appeared to be a minor flash forward, restoring Otto Hightower, Rhys Ifans, to power as the Hand of the King. In light of King Viserys, Paddy Considine's strange absence, he has designated himself as interim ruler. As Hand, he declares to the court, "I have spoken with the king's voice on this and all other matters." Princess Rhaenyra, Emma Darcy, is clearly disturbed by the change in power, dubbing the Hightowers Vipers, who intend to blow first the next day. To King's Landing then, Prince Daemon Matt Smith goes on to say to Rhaenyra, the duo reunited in the previous episode, consummating their connection with such a smooch. Finally, the two are likely plotting an assassination attempt, with happenings in Episode 7 serving as the catalyst. Alicent's second son, Aemon, Ewan Mitchell, lost his eye during a scuffle at Driftmark. Rhaenyra and Queen Alicent, Olivia Cook, have become bitter enemies as a consequence, with both the latter urging the former to take a dagger to the young offenders and take revenge. That's a wrap. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Goodbye for the moment, and see you at the next one.